Welcome back. It's a beautiful morning out. It's about 9 o'clock. It's supposed to be pretty warm today, so I thought I'd shoot a little intro to this video while I could capture some of the beautiful weather outside, and then we'll close things up here so it doesn't get too hot in the shop. I've got a pretty simple project that I want to do today, and it's actually finishing up a pretty simple project. So Pacer's coming along really nice, and I'm really excited about the way that things are coming together with it, making it a much more comfortable vehicle, much more ergonomically, just being able to drive the car down the road and being comfortable in it. And then getting things well laid out as far as the gauges go and things like that. I have pretty much everything that I need to do. That's going to be probably the very next project on that car, is to get all the gauges hooked up and everything. What I want to finish up today is I made the choice to convert the old incandescent light bulbs to LED units. And I looked around. I certainly don't like the look of a classic car with some funky looking kind of newfangled headlight in it. It's supposed to have the old glass lenses in it, and there are some out on the market that specifically cater to that and make some pretty nice units that, if you inspect them pretty closely, you can see the LED pods inside of it, but they mask it pretty well with a classic looking lens on the front, so it doesn't alter the look of the front of the vehicle. I looked around, shop around. I don't know, I've only bought one set of these things, so I don't know exactly how well they're going to work. I know the first one plugged in and it illuminates both bright and dim. I have done one headlight on one side, and I just need to finish up the install on that, and you'll see that. And then we're going to install the second light. And my idea here with this video is to show you what's involved, so that you can make the decision whether or not you want to make that change. This car is going to be a driver, like I said. It's going to have a lot of other lights on it and everything, but I lived through incandescent light bulbs once, and I'm not going to poke that bear again. So the lights on this thing were absolutely horrendous, and I had them aimed as well as they could be aimed and everything. And the one time that I took that thing up on the river, and it's an hour-and-a-half drive home through the woods, and you're trying not to hit a moose or an elk or a deer, and I could not see anything on the way home. So I looked, I researched, I found a set of lights that are kind of middle of the road, because you can find like really expensive units, and then you can find some really cheap ones too. And so I just kind of went middle of the road, and I want to say I paid about $85, I think, just on Amazon. And this was, I'm not going to endorse anybody's product here, so I haven't made a decision on whether I like these or not. I haven't had a chance to drive them, but so here we'll show you first the kind of the difference in the way that they look, but how close they look, and then we'll also go over why you have to alter things and whether or not you want to really tackle this project. It's not hard, it's just a pain in the butt. But anyway, so here you've got your original looking lens out of the front of the car, and then this one, and I think the way that they hit it, you see there's a couple of the horizontal lines down here, and this bottom part's a little bit clearer than this up here, and that's kind of hides the pods back there, because if you look in here, you can see the LED pods, but it's masked pretty well by the top of the light. So I liked that. And so it does, again, it doesn't really necessarily do a lot. Let's position this the correct way so the bottom's at the bottom, and I'll do the same with this one. That goes like that. Okay, so here's a good comparison. Here's the difference of what you're going to look at on the lights, and so I hope that shows up pretty well. Anyway, but also you'll see that there's a huge difference in the shape of them, and because of the fact that this tapers in so quickly and this obviously does not, so there's quite a fair amount of butchering involved, and I'll go over exactly what that was. Now, interestingly enough too, this is supposedly designed to go into a standard headlight ring on a classic car, which it in fact did. But the weird thing about it is, so these old bulbs were located by these bumps, and there's 3 of them, and they're at odd intervals around the circumference of that light, so the light bulb will only fit in there one way, and it'll be upright, and that way your bulbs are going to reflect correctly and your adjustment's going to be right. Well, this has the same thing. It has 3 nubs, one there, and one there, and it fits into the ring. But the weird thing is that it fit, mine anyway, fit into the ring. You'll see it on the front of the car too. That would be horizontal, and it's like on an angle about like that, which is not a big deal because the ring, as it goes in to the car, it's just held in by 4 sheet metal screws, and all I got to do is just take those out, clock it correctly, mark my holes, drill the holes, and put new sheet metal screws in, and then it'll sit level. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to do on the car, and then we'll disassemble the light assembly on, what side did I do? It seems like I did the driver's side already. So the passenger side, we'll go ahead and pull the bulb out of that, and then get out the tin snips. And it's not real time consuming. It's a fairly quick project. It's fairly straightforward. I was a little bit concerned about how much material I had to cut off there, and was it still going to work? And it went back together just fine. So as far as I know, it's working. Anyway, so that'll get that started, and throughout the course of today, I will get video shot and get that project done. And then we'll be moving on from there. Probably the last videos before we move on to phase 2 of that car, and I start the process of converting it over to 4-wheel drive. Pretty much the last thing, as I mentioned a little bit ago, I need to install the gauges, and I'm really excited about that because the gauges are going to be really neat in this car, the way that it ended up working, and I'm really pleased, and everything looks like it's going to fit really, really well, and it's just a matter of just installing it and getting everything hooked up. So that'll be one video, and then probably going to move on to rebuilding the axles for the car and everything, in getting ready for phase 2 and building that front suspension and everything. So really kind of exciting project. And then at some point too, I got to get the stretch started on the crew cab. It's up on my gantry crane right now. We had a barbecue out here. My shop is clean. I cleaned it up. We had a barbecue out here a week or so ago, and to free up some room, I threw the crew cab up on the gantry crane and got it up against the wall over here, and the ATV's underneath it. And I told myself it's going to stay on that gantry crane until it gets set down on the jig that needs to be made to do the cab stretch on that. So I'm looking at all the materials that I need to make that jig. So we'll get that happening here too soon. So kind of the plan that I have roughed out in my mind for right now. I'm getting ready to go up on the river in just a few days here for at least a week. And when I get back from that, probably more than likely get the gauges and everything installed in the Pacer, and then build the jig for the cab stretch on that, and then start on the axles for the Pacer. So we'll kind of leapfrog those projects along. The other great news that I got, and it just reminded me to say something about it because I looked back there and saw my 45 Willys Jeep. The engine for that I have now. The machining is all done on that. I have the engine parts for that. And so we're going to start assembly on the Jeep engine too. So we got 3 projects going all at the same time, and we'll see if we can kind of leapfrog them along, is my intention. That crew cab stretch is still going to wait a little while because I want to get the Jeep running. I want to drive it all summer. So I need to get the Jeep running, and theoretically I could have that running pretty quickly. We laid out what we want to do with the Pacer here. So I guess I'll get things arranged in here, and we'll take a look at those headlights. All right, so here's the shop is fairly clean once again, if you can believe that. And so, as I said, I changed the headlight on the driver's side, and you can see the difference in how they look. So again, I think it's pretty, if the other one wasn't changed, I think you wouldn't really notice it. I can't really see those pods in there and everything. So I'm pretty happy with that. But as I discussed earlier, look at the angle on that thing. I mean, it should be basically parallel to that right there, this line right here. And so you can see that that thing's clocked on a pretty steep angle. So we're going to look at that first. And it's just a pretty simple fix. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at what it requires to change that headlight over. So here's the back of that housing, and you can see those cooling fins need to be exposed, plus the bulb itself will not fit all the way in to the ring so that you can secure it without clearancing it. And you like my battery tie down there? I'm thinking about getting that patented because I got the same one in the Jeep and it's good enough for now. But you can see how much material you have to actually take out of there, out of the back, in order to make that work. So let's get this one clocked correctly first. You'll see it has just simply 4 tabs with sheet metal screws holding it in, just 4 of them around the bulb. And so we just need to pull those out, get it clocked in the right position, mark our holes, and put it back in. Okay, there's 3 little sheet metal screws that hold this lower light bezel in. I've already got one of them out. Now let's get the top 2 out of here. It makes it so that you can access the screws to get that light fixture out of there. It's loose. It'll fall right out of there. All right, I got the lens sitting pretty much nice and level, and as you can see, I put little pieces of duct tape on those tabs, so I have it just kind of duct taped in there, and I figure I can just center punch right through the duct tape to mark my holes, drill my holes, put the sheet metal screws in, put the bezel back in, and that one will be done. All right, so there you have it. One light completely installed, clocked correctly. So we're going to do this one now, and you'll notice too that the bezel on that one is kind of a flat black on the bottom, and this one's silver. So we're going to fix that at the same time. We'll just make this one flat black too. So let's go ahead and start tearing that headlight out. Okay, the bezel's off. It's seen better days. It's got a little crack in it right there. So I'm going to I'll glue that up and repair it and kind of get this cleaned up and sanded, and we're going to paint that flat black like the other one, and you'll never know it was broken. All right, so here's what we're dealing with. Let's go ahead and it's just this front ring that holds the actual light in place. So you don't have to take this whole thing out if you've never changed one of these. I've changed a million of them because this was the technology when I started driving. I was 15 when the Pacer was made in 1977, so do that math. So you would just loosen these 3 screws right here, which were accessible from the front of the car. You just had to take those 3 screws out to get that bezel, that plastic bezel out. And then that would give you access to these. This is the top of the light here. And so This screw was accessible when you popped the hood open. You could get to this one from under the hood. These two down here required that you took those 3 screws out and took that plastic bezel out, and then you could get to this one and this one. And then you would just simply turn this ring, if we loosen it up enough. So it's just a matter of turning the ring to the right to disengage all of the screw heads and to take that ring off. That would allow you to pull the headlight out. At that time, the cord would come with it. You'd wrestle with the plug like I did. Plug your new light in. These are the 3 locating nubs on the back of the light that engage those 3 nubs in there. And then this ring just goes back on the outside, and it's kind of like like 1/2 of a V-band clamp almost. So what we need to do is clearance the back of this thing, because this part of it, this inner part, so what you've got here, this is the part that's affixed to the bulkhead in the car, and then this second one is attached and it's floating in front of that one, and it's attached up here with a cam at the top, and then actually it's got 2 cams. It engages a cam there, and then just a spring that holds it at the bottom, and then that gives you these right here as your adjusters, and it allows you to adjust up and down and kind of left and right. This thing just needs to be released from that, and the easiest way, really the only thing that holds it together is that spring. I usually take it off with a pair of pliers, but I probably don't need to go get that. I can probably take it off with this right here. Or maybe a pair of pliers. There we go. Let's not let this thing go flying. I think pliers would have been a good answer. It came out of the hole, but it's right on the edge of that thing, and it's going to put somebody's eye out. Since I'm the only dude in here, I know whose eye it's putting out. Okay, so that spring comes off, and then like I said, this is just located in 2 cams, and they're just slots, so they just come out just like that. So now you got these apart, and this one pretty much, let me get a pen here. Still had a pen in the car from when I did the seats, and I've been meaning to get it out of there. So you can see there's like a little body line right there, if you will. So I basically just turned this one into just kind of a ring. I just kind of followed that body line right there. And just cut all of that out, just like that. And then this one's gonna get most of it cut out, but the thing that you gotta remember is that the spring attaches right there. What I did on the last one was I cut everything out, and I just kind of cut up and around this thing, just somewhere like that, you know, and then around here. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna follow this line. This is about where I cut that other one. Leaving that intact, kind of cut it around here. Pretty straight line. We'll cut that out like that first, and then I'll throw the light in, and you'll see why we have to make it flat on this side. So the other thing, I don't know if you noticed, when I got done butchering this, the back of that light housing is black. It's gloss black, and so we're going to be painting that bezel flat black anyway. And when I got this all cut to where, on the other side, all cut to where it was going to work, I then just sprayed it black. And if you leave it silver, you can see the contrast of the black housing, you know, that's inside of it. And it made it a little obvious where this ring had been somewhat butchered. And so I just went ahead and sprayed it black, and it kind of hides a lot of sins there. Seems like maybe the easiest thing to do is just to kind of butcher it close and get the pieces out of the way, because they don't like to curl up because it's concave, and that makes it really strong. It, just like using a bead roller to put strength into a piece of sheet metal. Anytime you put detail in it that puts a bend in it, especially when it's complex like that, it's a dome. It's very, very strong, so that won't curl up to get out of the way of that blade. So it's just easiest just to kind of get closer over to the edge and just keep butchering it. Like I said, not hard, not a big job to change these lights, but it's up to you to make the decision whether or not you want to go through this. To me, it's worth it. Plus, once I make that thing four-wheel drive, it's going to have a light bar on the front. It'll have a bunch of auxiliary lights, plus the regular driving lights. This should be a night and day difference. Pardon the pun. But these lights are going to make a huge difference. Now that I got most of that material out of the way of our actual cut line, I got flip-flops on, which I know isn't smart, but we're not doing a big job today. And it is 76 degrees in here right now, and it is 88 degrees outside. So I don't want to be in jeans and boots in here right now. I certainly wouldn't be changing a transmission or yanking an engine out. If I was, I got a little cooler over there, one of those little porta-cools. It's not very big, but if you direct it on you, like if you got a car up on the lift, you can just direct it right on you, and it helps a lot. Lincoln gave that to me last year. I gotta do a little work on it. It needs a water fitting, I think. Oh, wait a minute. No, I fixed that. Oh, it needs a float. That's what it is. I fixed the water fitting that was leaking last year. And first time I fired it up, it started leaking all over the floor, and I looked and was like, what the hell? Well, something's wrong with the float. I don't remember what it was. Had a hole in it or something, and the float became a rock. Okay, so we just trim this down right about where I had it before, and we'll pop this thing back together and go get that light. All right. So this is what it looks like, finally all cut out and reassembled. And now that we've got it that far, what you'll see is that's the cam that goes on the top where I marked it. The lettering goes up on this, so this is the top. So that means here's our little locators for our nubs, so that's how the light gets oriented in the unit. And you'll see we're actually not too bad right there. This one actually fell together way better than the other one, because it looks to me, the main thing is that you want to make sure that none of this housing has any contact with this rear one, the one that's actually affixed to the car, because then that'll be as far as you can adjust it in that direction it'll be hitting. That one's in. That one's in. And that one's in. So, I'd say pretty darn close. It looks like probably I'm free. That's why I clean it up on the wire brush. A little sliver like that poked me in the finger. There's material right here that needs to come off. I can tell you that. That needs to be cleaned up just a little bit around there like that. Will give us some pretty good room. And I'm just going to go ahead and it looks like it's pretty well. Actually, that's not really interfering with anything there. I'm just going to go ahead and clean this up. Let's just take that right on out of there. All right, just a little bit more trimming. This should be the last round right here. It fits in there good, but it's touching this back one in a couple different places, and you want it to be able to move around. It doesn't have to move a lot, but you know, it has to move around. I'm assuming that the aim should be pretty close, I would think. I had these adjusted right for the incandescent bulbs that were there. So unless these focus in a completely different direction and we have to make big changes, we might be in trouble then. But I don't think that's going to be the case. We'll find out, won't we? The unknown. Nothing more exciting than watching a guy run a pair of tin snips, huh? All right. Ouch. There's some sharp stuff left on that thing. Okay. Ouch. Okay. It fits in there really good now. It looks like we can adjust that in just about any direction. That ring should fit on there with no problem. Let's go clean this thing up on the wire wheel. Let's take this thing back apart again and get both pieces cleaned up and painted. Right, I glued this crack in this bezel with some 5-minute epoxy, and it's starting to tack up now. So we'll set that thing right there in a little bit. That thing will be completely dry and ready for us. Went ahead and painted these. So I painted these up already, and they've had time to dry. So we can put these back together. All right, how does this go in here? Just like that. Yes, just like that. Then that's better. All right, so all those screws are aligned, and we'll just tighten those down. All right, that's all three tightened up. Make sure they're snug. All right, cool. And that's all ready to go back in the car now. All right, we're going to take the same approach here. We're going to duct tape this thing in place. Drill a couple holes. Gorilla tape, the good stuff. All right, so let me take a look at this from a distance here. And that looks good. Aha, that's right. I dropped one of those. Let me make sure I got the right bit here. I do. I still had to find one of these screws or replace it. That was the one I dropped back there earlier. that'll mark all of them. The part that I didn't show from earlier when I was caulking that one earlier in the video, and I drilled a hole in there in this little sharp corner right at the edge of the bezel there. When the drill plunged through, I smashed my finger. It was nice. All right, I'll drill those out. Okay, I took the light back out. I marked all of the holes with the drill bit that need to be drilled. Go ahead and finish drilling them here. This is the one I smashed my finger on right here. When it goes through, I hit that point. See if I can avoid that this time. The headlight comes with a little adapter that goes from the original headlight plug in the car, and then it plugs into this one right here. That plugs into there. Find the original plug to the headlight. It's right there. There we go. Just like that. And then I've got you can see where I repaired the crack. That's not seen, but you can't even really tell. As a matter of fact, you can't even tell what was cracked on the inside. So they both come on. Okay, that's good news. They both work. Well, there you have it. We have managed to change the headlights to LED without ruining the natural beauty that is the Pacer. Still looks like the pretty much stock headlights. It's pretty convincing. I'm pretty impressed with how it looks, and I'm waiting for it to get a little bit darker, and I'll take it out for a ride and get them adjusted and everything and see how they work. But anything has to be a vast improvement over the way that it was. So there you go. That's pretty much what was involved for me to be able to do the LED conversion on this. I don't know if it would be a little bit more straightforward on another vehicle or not. I'm not sure. It's the first time I've done it. So I'm pleased with it. I like the way that it turned out, and hopefully they work as well as they look. We'll find out though. I'll give you a little bit of a tease as to what's going to be coming next here. I'm going to be doing the instrumentation. I have put in the GPS speedometer, which has a tachometer in the bottom, has the turn signal indicators, the bright and dim indicator. What's really cool is I can still see my fuel gauge and my gear selector on the other side. But this blocks the old speedometer, which doesn't read very accurately anyway. So that's an upgrade. And then because it's all idiot lights, I've got 3 gauges that are going to go in right there. Pretty sick, huh? So we got that install coming up next. I'm going to video all that, we'll have the new instrumentation in here, and then we'll be ready for phase 2, which is 4-wheel drive. It's going to be sick. So stay tuned. I appreciate you taking a look.